Hello and welcome to another edition of Mail Unleashed, brought to you by Market Reach. And today is a particularly special occasion because here we have Tash Whitmey, who's Tesco's head of relationship marketing, having spent beforehand 18 years at Evans Hunt Scott, where the loyalty program was first created. So the idea was it was just a kind of electronic version of a promotion. And Tesco ignored this criticism and went ahead and went big with Clubcard. And boy, did they prove the criticism wrong, because it was an absolutely breakthrough move at that stage. It was a mass product selling, often at quite low margins, very, very repeatedly. It was a complete revelation. And you've been there more or less throughout, it's fair to say.
I have, directly and indirectly. So I worked at Havas for 18 years and we had the Clubcard statement, so the direct mail bit of the statement from the very first time that Tesco issued the statement. And I worked on the Tesco account pretty much for the whole time that I was at Havas, and then have moved over subsequently to look after the Clubcard scheme.
How many members?
Just over 21 million active members. And that's people who use their Clubcard in a transaction at least once every 6 weeks.
And what's fascinating about it is that it has great promotional value. And that was something I think that was completely missed, in the sense that there's a psychologically interesting thing that probably people are more engaged by value on than they are by money off. Which I think is quite an important finding. And so one of the very clever things you're doing at the moment is you're making certain discounts and certain discounted prices exclusive to the Clubcard.
That's right.
Which, that's comparatively new, isn't it? It's in the last couple of years, I think. What drove that?
So we've had points as the main currency from the inception of Clubcard, and it works brilliantly for a lot of our customers who've got very regular shopping, and they can then use their vouchers either for money off their shopping or for one of our reward partners at double the value. But then I think we realised in COVID that customers were searching for a regular, stable discount as well as part of the loyalty programme. So we introduced Clubcard prices, and really it was a recognition of the fact that we needed to show up in a way that is simple, good value. When you've got that many customers and you're in a relationship with them, we think of Clubcard as the way to get the best possible value from Tesco. And obviously the ability to get money off at the shelf edge, kind of instant gratification, was one of the things that was missing in the loyalty program. But there was this craving for kind of instant gratification, and for the loyalty program to show up at the shelf edge.
And it also enables you to sort of reinforce the value of the program, because you can actually communicate amount saved over a quarter, a month, a year, if you like,
absolutely,
which makes it really, really potent.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of moments of magic. So there's the moment at the till, when you tap your app or swipe your Clubcard or tap your Clubcard, where you basically see your previous bill, and it goes down by quite a significant amount. And that's brilliant for customers, but also really good for our colleagues. Because they see that kind of moment of magic.
They almost feel that they're the dispenser of the largesse and the generosity.
And it gives them the encouragement to always ask customers if they've got their Clubcard. It gives them a sense of pride in what Tesco's doing for its Clubcard customers.
It remains a brilliant mixture of both digital and paper. You must come under pressure from the various finance folk to make it all digital all the time. How do you resist that?
I mean, I've worked in direct marketing for a very long time, and I've always had a sense of there's a role for mail. Even as the world goes increasingly digital, there are certain moments when something landing on your doormat, its tangibility, is really important. And we've got customers who won't go digital.
No.
And we're a really democratic brand, so we will always have customers who would prefer to receive their statement on paper than email. We're always going to have customers that choose or can't interact with us in digital channels, and it doesn't feel that it sits well with the Tesco brand, which is a democratic brand that's open to everybody, great British public, that we would force everybody into digital.
And then, of course, you have that fantastic thing, I think, which not many people spotted in terms of the value of the data with Clubcard, which is you know, you can now see over time whether it is 10 people buying something once or one person buying something 10 times.
Yes.
And I remember talking to Tim Mason, who said, he gave an example, I think, of you created a kind of category, say, of gluten-free foods, okay? And when it first launched, people were slightly disappointed at the actual aggregate volume of sales.
Yeah.
But what the data enabled you to find out was that many people were actually driving their entire shop weekly to Tesco, because if you had one family member who was gluten intolerant, you had to go to that particular shelf anyway, and therefore the rest of the store, the rest of the shop followed effectively that particular category. Now, without that kind of data, you never would have been able to make that case, and you might have gotten rid of something which was actually a good idea.
I mean, absolutely. Obviously, there's the use of the data for the benefit of the customers who are part of the scheme,
Yes.
which is surfaced through the various touch points that we have with them. But then obviously that data, you know, you've got 27 years of day-to-day grocery transactional data there. We use that for a lot of internal decision making. At Tesco, you know, from what we stock in our different stores to launching new brands and understanding the take up of that.
You'll know this pretty well as like me, a direct marketing lifer, if you like, which is that I think in a multi-channel world, one of the dangers of excessive focus on what you might call accountability is that we only attribute value where it's easy to measure. For example, in other words, the physical in combination with the digital, it's not really an additive effect, it's a multiplicative effect. And that the same message in two different media or complementary messages in two different media just seem to be more potent. Have you found evidence of this?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, the first thing to say probably at Tesco is that the statement, which is a predominantly paper piece of activity, is the backbone of the loyalty programme.
Yeah.
And so we know for a fact that customers for whom we've got longer tenure that have received, you know, a statement 4 times a year for however long they've been there do go on to have a higher frequency and a higher value of their shopping and their loyalty at Tesco.
And they actually ring you up if they don't receive it, don't they? Which, given it's quarterly, shows a fairly high level of anticipation, doesn't it?
And I think it's because we're returning real value to them.
Yeah.
So that value that we give back in that statement is tangible, it's real, and it's significant. So, you know, I fundamentally believe that there's a role for that. I also believe that there's a role for the combination of email, push, digital, alongside paper. And when we've done activity like even kind of migrating customers into digital channels, we've used a combination of email and put kind of messaging into direct mail. And we have a number of mailings that we do in partnership with the Clubcard statement. We tend to think of like what's the most comfortable channel for the person that we're communicating with.
Yeah.
And we would tend to start there and think about the proposition that we're communicating. Is it an in-store proposition? Is it a digital proposition? And that would be our start point, but we definitely do blend the channels.
That's excellent. And I understand you've got another piece you're particularly fond of, alongside, quite rightly, the quarterly statement, which, as you said, is the backbone of everything, which actually dates back a few years.
27 years.
27 years, good.
So the quarterly statement's been going for 27 years, and it's 4 times a year, and it gives that benefit of real value, the vouchers that you've earned, the money that you've earned, which you can then very easily in digital redeem for reward partners as well. But the other piece I was thinking of was a mailing for Volvo. Which we did when I was at Havas, and it was really when Volvo started to, they wanted to move away from the very traditional way of buying a list, mailing, incentivising test drives. I think what they could start to see was they got a lot of test drives, but were they serious about kind of moving it on? And we got an insight from our conversations with Volvo around the fact that they tested their cars with pregnant dummies. So the cars were actually tested and were fit for purpose for pregnant mothers and first-time mothers. And
there was an extraordinary controversy recently, which is that nearly all crash test dummies were male, and therefore cars were being optimised around male safety for a time.
This was definitely not that. And what we did was, based on that insight and the fact that EHS had built a kind of suspect pool, so prospect suspect pool. We did a piece of DM that was really tangible. It was lovely to open, and on the envelope we'd written "baby on board," and the line inside basically said, "Not all passengers have been born yet." And there was a little picture of the baby, and basically just said that this is because of that safety, the insight around safety, the insight around who we were targeting, and the fact that Volvo wanted to grow their market share among first-time parents.
Brilliant.
That, for me, is a classic example of when direct mail is at its best, when you've got brilliant targeting,
because you've got a moment where people
insight.
fundamentally rethink their car choices anyway, which is when you have a child.
Absolutely.
You have the safety strength of the Volvo brand, which suddenly comes to the fore.
Yeah.
You know, as a childless 28-year-old, you're not really that bothered about your car's inertia reel, seatbelt capability. Suddenly those things become really, really acutely. And I think that targeting by context or by moment. I've always said that we spend too much time talking about target audiences and not enough about target moments.
Absolutely.
You know, if you want to sell camera cases, someone who's just bought a camera is literally 100 times more likely to be in your market than someone who's, you know, whatever their other demographic or other qualities, time often trumps everything else. And that's fantastic. And it was presumably pretty successful.
It was really successful.
Yes.
I think, from memory, I think we had something like a 7% open rate from a list, and test drives, and the test drive rate was, I think it was 20% that went on for a test drive. So, you know, really phenomenal. In particular, the reason I love that example is actually delivering it to someone's doormat when they're in the market, with a really deep insight that links the product to the person's life stage.
Which is actually, when you've got a really great insight, that's one of the great reasons where think mail, I agree.
Yeah.
As you might have expected, it's been an absolute pleasure to welcome Tash onto the programme as kind of the oracle of what must be the biggest direct marketing activity in Britain in any given year. First thing to do is to copy and absorb all the learnings you've got for free in this session from some of the best in the business. And then if you really want to further unleash the power of your direct mail, well, just take a visit to marketreach.co.uk, where you'll find more episodes like this one, and you'll also find a whole variety of tips, tricks, and effectively fantastic repositories of wisdom that you can use to make your direct mail even more effective. And also, join us next time. Thank you very much indeed.